Timer? Alright, then let's begin. True love. When I said those two words together, you might have thought of several different things. Holy matrimony. Your daughter's favorite princess movie. Or perhaps a shining diamond ring. Most people in today's culture, however, have a twisted understanding of things like love, relationships, and marriage. We as humans long to love someone and to be loved. But what does that really look like? Today, we'll be looking at different outlooks on love and observing where these perspectives leave their viewers. These first two lovebirds are probably the most famous romantic couple in world literature. We see them declare their undying affection for one another from the balcony in William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father, and refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I will no longer be a Capulet. 'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose. That which we call a rose, by any other name would smell as sweet. Oh, Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name which is no part of thee, take all myself. What man art thou, that thus be screened in night, so stumbleth on my counsel?
My name, fair saint, is hateful to myself, because it is an enemy to thee.
Art thou not Romeo, and a Montague?
Neither, fair saint. If either thee dislike,
If they do see thee, they will murder thee.
alack, there lies more peril in thine eye than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity.
Romeo and Juliet met each other at a party, and the same night they swore their love to each other and soon got married. They became each other's idol and couldn't fathom living without each other. Shakespeare's intricately woven plot ends as Romeo commits suicide, thinking Juliet to be dead. Juliet likewise stabs herself when she discovers her love is dead. Romeo and Juliet may have fallen in love, but their idolatry led to their destruction. The second person we'll meet also let his wrong view of love ruin his life, but for a different reason. Godfrey Cass was a wealthy landowner living in 19th century England. As a young man, his feelings led him to marrying Molly Farron, an opium addict. But his feelings soon changed, and he stopped loving his wife. One fateful night, Molly overdosed on opium and died in the snow. And their child was claimed not by Godfrey, but by an old weaver named Silas Marner. Godfrey remarried a beautiful girl named Nancy, but he could never free himself of his guilty conscience. 16 years after Molly's death, Godfrey finally reveals his secret. In George Eliot's book, Silas Marner.
When God Almighty wills it, our secrets are found out. I've lived with a secret on my mind, but I'll keep it from you no longer. Nancy, when I married you, I hid something from you, something I ought to have told you. That woman, Mona, fell dead in the snow, Eppie's mother, was my wife. Eppie is my child. I oughtn't to have left the child alone. I oughtn't to have kept it from you. But I couldn't bear to give you up, Nancy. I was led away into marrying her. I suffered for it.
Godfrey, if you had not told me this 6 years ago, we could have done some of our duty by the child. Do you really think I'd refuse to take her in if I'd known she was yours?
And oh, Godfrey, if we'd had it from the first, she'd have
you would now, but you wouldn't then. With your pride and your father's, you'd have hated having anything to do with me.
I can't say what I should have done about that, Godfrey. I should never have married anybody else.
But I wasn't worth doing wrong for. Nothing is in this world.
Godfrey's view of love resulted in a motherless child, a strained relationship with his wife, and constant fear of someone discovering his dark past. George Eliot, the author of this story, accurately described how a view of love based on lies and deception can lead to ruined lives. Thankfully, there is a kind of love that never fails. But before we see this view of love lived out, let's look at an excellent description of it written by the Apostle Paul in the book of 1 Corinthians. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. From this description, it may seem like this love is unattainable. However, there was a man who understood this love even when the friends he surrounded himself with had trouble grasping the concept. In his story, we see his views of true love shown. One time, while teaching his friends and fans, he described his love for them, an event recorded by the Apostle John in the Bible, specifically in the book of John. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you obey my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. After living a perfect life for 33 years, Jesus was put on trial and condemned to death, even though he'd been declared innocent of any crimes. His hands and his feet were nailed to a Roman cross. During that crucifixion, God's anger for every ugly thought to cross my mind, every unkind word any of us have ever spoken, and the atrocities of this world landed on his shoulders. He volunteered for this. But 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead, proving once and for all that he is God, and that God is not only just, but also loving. Every human desires both to love and to be loved. Throughout this speech, we've met 3 sets of people. Romeo and Juliet were each other's idols. And in the end, they killed themselves because of their distorted view of love. Godfrey Cass tried love based on feelings, but when those feelings changed, he discarded it, only to try a new love based on lies and deception. Jesus, however, gave his life for others. He has a love for us that is not based on how we act or how he feels. Romans 5:8 says, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." True love is not a feeling, but an action based on commitment. The Apostle Paul closed his first letter to the Corinthians with these words: "And now these 3 things remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love."